Yuan Ming. So happy to be with you today again. A little bit of hard rock, heavy metal as a song before class today. Well, it's a ballad. It's from the group Metallica, and it's about nothing else matters, which I refer to as becoming the true self. There's a few really beautiful lines in there in the lyrics. So pardon me if hard rock is not especially your type of music, which might be in the Renju community. Um, it is actually a song I wanted to use next week because, surprise, surprise, we are going to do avoiding and hiding again next week. This came up in my heart at a spur of the moment decision, feeling into it, because in the 30 patterns, if we would go from the way Janse brought it out as information in the teacher's manual, next week would be avoiding and hiding, which this is where we together in this web class in the Yuan Ming Free Flow have started our journey with the 30 patterns, 30 plus weeks, and daily Ling Yuan every day. But maybe it's good to revisit avoiding and hiding now that we have done so much work on the patterns and this daily Ling Yuan practice, even if you miss 2 or 3 in the whole 30 plus weeks process, which is more like a 40-week process. This repetitive practice of Ling Yuan, I'm sure you are seeing the effects by now. If nothing yet is coming up for you in Ling Yuan, which I know for many of us is often an obstacle for Ling Yuan, an obstacle regarded from the perspective of many people lose trust very quickly because before Shen, this process of the heart, Xin Ling, and Shen Yi communicating, it is a path of development. It is a path of practice. And it also is a specific way to be able to observe how the information is coming up. Again, practicing is important because in the very least, you will be gifted with a few moments of silence, a few moments of calmness, and a very deep relaxation, because the Ling Yuan method provides in its chi field such a deep state of unification. Many people are versatile with Ling Yuan by now, and they are holding all of you. For those of you, if you happen to have some problems still with Ling Yuan and some aspects of it, you know, in Ren She, we take such an approach to problems that we attempt to be grateful for them and use them because they are pathfinders to help us see where we can deepen our aspirations to tether our life. So we will revisit avoiding and hiding next week, and we'll probably we're not going to read the information from Janse, so I will see what I can come up with. Or we maybe, if you like, you could write me something. We could make it also a bit of a sharing episode, if you like, of Yuan Ming Free Flow web class. How you've been going with the Ling Yuan process. Write me if you like, and share of your, for now, problems who won't be problems for much longer anymore in the future. Share your successes. Don't worry, this won't be taken as bragging. It is important to share success. And it would fit to avoiding and hiding, because to share our successes, our progress, our development, and where we have been successful can be so incredibly uplifting for so many. But of course, very often we are hindered by our pattern of avoiding and hiding. To share these things. Sharing these things is important because they put our heart in a very uplifted way. They strengthen our Xinling a lot. So let's unify together a bit more and build a chi field. For today, we are looking at self-centeredness. I don't know about you. Self-centeredness is a pattern that I tend to have difficulties to look at. And probably because it is applicable to look at it. None of us wants to be selfish. None of us wants to be calling or seeing oneself as self-centered. So it is important that we look at it so we can, with compassion for ourselves and others, strengthen our hearts and allow our Shen Yi to take over, so that we can be grateful for how we can use self-interest without having to be self-centered. So this pattern also really, really invites us to think of others, consider others, and consider our future in a broad picture. And I have received a question from one of you guys out there in the global community, and it is wonderful how it fits into it. We'll get to that for later. For now, let's build a chi field. Oh, let's strengthen the chi field with more information. Look straight forward and start to relax your whole body. And then draw the vision back. And relax your whole body. Awareness inside. Lift Hoi Yin to lower Dantian. And then allow your awareness to connect with the reality that you are chi and the chi field. You are turning into chi. And expand out to all directions. You are merging. You are merging with the pure chi of the universe. You are becoming one with all there is. There is no more walls and boundaries separating you from anything. There is no skin, no house, no country, no planet. You are chi and information, and you are one with the wisdom of the universe. You are one with Tao, the law of the universe. You are healthy and well. Enjoy the state of expansion. Enjoy the awareness of oneness for a few moments. You are chi and information in the universal chi and information. There is no distinction anymore, no separation. You are one with all. You are all. Now come on in without going back into the identification of only being everything within your skin. Stay chi, so stay the air around you. See how when you are all, you are also the other human. The humans that you like and the humans that you don't like so much. Maybe the humans that you fear. Stay everything in your awareness. Stay connected with you are chi and everything else is chi as well. So your skin is no boundary. You are chi within chi. And everything is connected with one another. Observe how your state is expanding and contracting. Your physical space is all or something at the same time, and it is expanding and contracting with your breath. You are breathing in the other human. You are breathing in the air. You are breathing in the information and the being of a tree, of a shark, of water, and of all the different types of societies. Connect with every culture in this world. Connect with every color of the wind. Allow your awareness to become one with the total reality of you. Allow your heart to stay in love and trust, no matter how difficult it is in the complexity of human life and living together. Connect with the quality of trust, because you can trust that if you manage to adjust your state into the state of love, respect, and compassion, of empathy, you can change a lot in the world. When your internal is changing into this awareness. And feel free to use the chi field for this at any time. The chi field and the universe are supporting you if you actively work with it together. You are not alone and never alone. And you can send information into everything and everyone via the chi field, via your awareness of being one and chi and one with all. Trust that you keep working on purifying your heart so that the information you are putting into the chi field is healthier and healthier with each moment that you are aware or even not aware. And that with each moment, the information that you're sending out to everybody is following Tao, is following the laws. Trust your own Xinling. Trust your Shen Yi. Trust the work you do on your Shen Yi and your Xinling. That you are sending out influencing information into everything that is healthy and is according to the law. The more you trust, the more you will be able to use this, and the more you will be able to help yourself and others. You are one with the light of the wisdom of the universe. Now observe your state in silence for a few moments. And gently, if you like, open your eyes or keep them closed and listen closed. With closed eyes, it's up to you. If you can keep the awareness alive that you are connected with everything. What I will talk about the next 10 minutes is actually something that is not part of Renshu, and I think it's the first time ever I'm talking about something that is not part of Renshu in a class or a session. But it happened through Renshu in my life, and it manifested through the use of Renshu, and for me in direct connection with Ling Yuan. So what happened and the participation of that is arrived to me after Ling Yuan. So if you've been part of Yuan Ming Free Flow, remember back to when we worked on unfounded suspicions for the whole week. It was part of our chi field, and I sat down in the morning for my Ling Yuan practice. And after the preparation, there was an emotion. So when I asked to look at avoiding and hiding in connection with unfounded suspicion, I asked my heart, or my heart asked the question of, where shall I go today? With this observation process in Ling Yuan, with the self-inquiry, and there was a sense of hopelessness when I started already. So I connected deeply with the information of avoiding and hiding and suspicions. As we know, the unfounded suspicion information is, of course, deeply ingrained in us humans, uh, in contact with other humans. And also, it has a lot to do with other humans and social life. And as I was sitting there, the emotional state got stronger and stronger, and I really experienced despair. And information started rolling about how are we humans ever going to get out of this? How are we ever going to get out of where we are right now? And then information about the history of humanity, also of humankind, pictures started coming to me of wars and how the economy is tied into the wars and into our need of material security and the unfounded suspicions, or just the suspicion, the state of the heart in the state of suspicion. It was really quite strong, and it was a lot of information. It was a bit like a movie happening in my head. It just kept rolling on, and obviously that was you know information from my false self partially, and the identification with negativity and pessimism and withdrawal, the and also the manifestation of sheer inactivity, of not knowing what to do. So, like we know, all the patterns are so interconnected. And anyway, so I kept observing that film in my shen, um, inside of me, and it went on and on. It was a long time. I think this went on for an hour, and my body was shaking and heaving, and I was aware that I was having a reaction. At the same time, I knew I was unified. I, I was just allowing information from the universe to flow in, and also observing at the same time my false self and the true, the Shen Yi and the Xin Ling, all working together in connecting me to some information. And so I allowed it to keep on rolling. And when it was sort of slowing down, I started to allow, Xin Ling started to ask different questions and guiding me through the process of Ling Yuan. And the whole practice of Ling Yuan lasted 3 hours that day. I still know that because it was such a long one. And um, I couldn't possibly repeat to you right now the complexity of all the connections that happened that day with the questions but the short version of where I ended up with was this state of deep. So it was almost like I knew what was happening, right? It was the unfounded suspicion pattern information burning up a lot, just burning. Burning. It feels sometimes like burning, right? It was just dissolving and transforming, while it was just showing me all the manifestations and where my consciousness attached to information that had to do with suspicion and avoiding and hiding. And why? So, in other words, because of the pattern of suspicions would be suggesting to me to keep further avoiding and hiding because it is of no use anyway. We are so deep in the do-do, that's the negativity pattern. We're so deeply ingrained and connected with our problems. When you look at the, political, cultural, economical situation, I couldn't see a way out for us humans at all. Um, and so through this whole process, it just kept showing me all these attachments, and I arrived after 3 hours, or let's say 2.5, something like that. After 2.5 hours or something, I arrived at this deep inner state of leave it be. This is a process. You only need to take care of your state, your heart. You cannot sort out these things, so you don't need to hold on to suspicion. You don't need to keep being suspicious of all the systems that we're in. Um, Everybody can choose to not participate in healthy or unhealthy things. And so go into your state and trust that more and more we all, especially you yourself, will keep choosing healthier things, and that the universe has a solution for all of this. So, in other words, give off the control, surrender, and trust. I know it sounds quite, it sounds straightforward, right? When you and me, like we are working with Renshe, well, it all came back to trust. It could have been, I mean, why 3 hours for the whole process, right? It's sort of so obvious. But yeah, it was a whole different quality of trust that I had that day. And I am bringing this up today because today this is in the Chi field, and the greed pattern last week and the process of practicing Lingyan with greed, also with the greediness pattern this whole last week, and with self-centeredness now, self-centeredness this week, all of that kept coming back to me. And also because of the question. So last week during greed, I have shared just one phrase about that. I have joined something that is called gifting economy. And I have told you that story, or I shared with you what I've experienced in the Lingyan practice in suspicion pattern, because you will not believe what happened 5 or 6 hours. So it happened that evening, late afternoon, that I was invited by a fellow Renshe practitioner whom I work very closely together with individual sessions. So she's doing sessions with me, and she invited me to something that is called gifting economy. And she sent me this little video, and I was so aware, like immediate, I was suspicious. that was the main information I had felt. And I was like, no, there's no need to be suspicious. Just be open and watch the little video that she sent me. And so my false self had no chance to sneak itself into here. And when I watched this 7 to 10 minute video, I think it's only 10 minutes long, or is it 15? I don't know. I don't remember actually. And my jaw dropped. I sat there like this. I could not believe I was so clearly supported by the universe. The information of that, for me, there was not one issue that wouldn't have, for me, fit under the umbrella of Renshe. And well, if you know me, I tend to fall a bit into the polarization pattern when it's about Renshe. It's all Renshe. Renshe answers every question for me. See, polarization, or overgeneralization pattern. For me, this is my salvation. Everything I was allowed to learn from Janse, and the patience that he keeps in his heart until complete self-governing on my behalf is possible through me applying, and getting to self-governing and autonomy. Um, I mean, remember, I traveled for 20 years 16 years to look for Janse. And so I'm sorry, I hope I don't trigger you with this, me putting Renshe as this umbrella under which, if it doesn't it doesn't go follow with Renshe, for me this is a sign that it doesn't follow the laws of the universe, because no matter how much suspicions I used to observe where there might be a fault in the system, um, and sure, it's not perfect because it's lived by us humans, right? So we humans live Renshe, or we Renshe practitioners live Renshe. So sure, there is a few mistakes happening in the G field, but the overall information is always used from observation of Qi and the flow of Tao, and well, the flow of Qi according to Tao. And so there were quite a few patterns coming up, but after about 24 hours and two conversations with Jen and another, oops, now I said the name, I'm sure it's okay for her. She's an Irish practitioner, and also another French practitioner is part of this. By now, of course, a few more, because I've brought in someone else as well from Renshe. And anyway, for me, the answer of how could we get out of this, for example, in one aspect, the economical side, was for me mind-blowing. How, just a few hours after I had gone through this process of deep despair, really deep despair, into, for humanity and for the planet, and then going into and coming to this deeply relaxed, calm, peaceful place of trust the universe. It will show you, it will show us, it will guide us. Just take care of your state and make sure you feel trust and stay open to the universe. It will send you answers. And a few hours later, it sent that. So, yeah, so after one day, I entered into the gifting economy cycle, and this involves that you are gifting $500 to someone, a stranger, within that group that you will be part of for the first few weeks until the group splits up, and then you receive money eventually because you're at the receiving spot. So first you give unconditionally, and then you move through a few stages, and then you receive money yourself from 8 persons, and then one of those 8 parts you give off again into the next circle, into the next group. So you constantly meet new people, strangers, and you keep receiving from them and you keep giving them. But at the first, you actually give to a stranger. Well, in my case, you also commit to, bring in 2 people, and you also commit to a community, to talk with one another, to support each other, to help one another, like we do in Renshe. It basically is pattern work. It's a healing journey. And yeah, by now I was allowed to do a few G sessions, and with some of them. And I also, was asked to do a group G field building, and there's a lot of change in that group, and a lot of people are really attracted to Renshe as well now. So it is a really receiving and giving. And I see in this system a way of how everybody receives and can give. There is a lot of pattern work to be done because, first of all, the pattern of greed activates itself on a very deep level of consciousness. In an economy like this, we do not compete with one another. And there is also not one person at the top receiving a lot and the next one a little less. So it's not a pyramid scheme. It's not a pyramid system. It's also not a scheme. So, but you cannot make more money of it ever. You can't exponentially increase your wealth. It's just so that you will be able to monthly or every 2 months, depending on how good the flow is. I am talking about this all because I was asked, and I have forgotten to ask to read the question. So I will read the question before I keep talking. Andrea, can you share what is a good way, what is a good entry to gift economy in your experience? I did read Charles Eisenstein about this. Thank you. So Charles Eisenstein is the founder of, or who came up with this idea. And there's a book out there, you can read about him, Charles Eisenstein. I personally have not read the book. I only listened to another Ranger practitioner talking to me and a little informative video. And then I decided to, face my patterns. The pattern of tormented by loss and gain was triggered. Like I also already just said, the pattern of greed was triggered. And of course, the suspicion pattern was triggered as well. So I worked through all of this and I came to a place of surrender. And for the first time in my life, I gave money with the risk of not getting it back because I didn't know. By now, I've already received it back. Tenfold, I guess you say. It's not tenfold, but it was. So I have received more of it already than that I have given. And then you just keep taking one part of the 8 parts and you keep giving. So my Shen has brought me so much information about how this could be a future for so many humans. Because if you cannot work because you don't function because of emotional or mental reasons, that you can't go out there and work 40 or 60 hours a week. This is a wonderful way of being able to support people. They can pay their 1 part and receive 8 parts back and give another 1 part of the 8 back into the gifting cycle, and you receive another 7 eventually. Well, you keep receiving 8 parts, but 1 part of the 8 parts you give off. Sick people can keep taking care of themselves, and it's fantastic for people who would like to do their practice. If they want to deepen their, for example, Ranger work, you have a lot of time for practice when you make, so to speak, $4,000 a month, and well, 3,500 because 1 part you give off. Anyway, it's a very interesting concept, and I actually hadn't planned on talking about it, but last week when we did greed, when we read the replacement information from Yance, it was just, my heart was screaming inside of me to say something. If someone has a question about it, you can talk more about it, because why not? It is not that anybody is being betrayed or anybody is becoming rich here. It's impossible, actually. It's a way of how we can stop fighting each other, stop competing with one another economically. It would be one way out. So I see this as a complete pioneering system, that if people participate, a lot, amazing freedom can happen for humans to have more time to connect with themselves, go internal, and do the work necessary to reach their true self. it is a self-governing system, so it works completely in the understanding that I have of the true self and of self-autonomy and self-governing. Because imagine, for me, it's a bit like Renshu, when everybody has become, this is utopian for now, but connect with the total reality of 1,000 years. So in 1,000 years, when everybody receives 8 parts, gives up 1 financially, and then can do all the work, and everybody is a true self, we don't have to, we all have enough money to buy, the little bit of clothes we need and have a house, pay our rent, but we can keep working on ourselves and we can live together. And from the Rancher perspective, when in 1,000 years everybody's enlightened, we don't need political governments anymore. We can self-govern. This is, of course, a big future, and I might be completely wrong. It's a picture from the future, but it is a possibility. And this is something that I was shown that day in Yuan, how we could get to freedom within the social systems we have as well. Yeah, when everybody can take care of their health themselves, except maybe emergency medicine. Question is, when you're enlightened, if you still need emergency, if you still need surgeries, or if you still have accidents that you need someone to sew your arm back on or so on. So I'm not saying that medicine is not necessary the way it is today, but maybe we can all take care of ourselves then on a health level, the physical health, the emotional health, the economical health. Certainly the planet would be helped if we don't have to all scramble for resources all the time, because we have no fear anymore for the future. We trust, we know that the universe is supplying us with everything we truly need. And how much money can someone need? Yes, we need to pay our rents, we need to pay our food if we can't make it ourselves. And so we can, when we're all our true self, we won't be fighting anymore, we won't be killing anybody, so we don't need legislation, government, or a justice system where it's quite, yeah. This is a bit of utopia that can become reality if we all participate, if we all do the internal work. And in my opinion, and I might be completely wrong, if we also start all participating in a different type of economy without, so like this, the economy wouldn't also have to crash, right? Because we would be recycling the money that exists, and there is more than enough to go around. So this is how you enter into the gifting economy. You look at your patterns, you work on your patterns of fear, greed, suspicions, tortured of loss and gain, etc. And then you increase your trust and you give to a stranger, and then you get to know, you are invited in a group, and then you get to know each other, and they're no strangers no more, and turn into people that help you and that you can help and that support you and you support them. And there's no competition anywhere. And so it's quite magical, I have to say. So I'm in it now since 2 months, and I am really touched by it. And how are you entering into this is through invite only. So yeah, if you want to be invited, just ask me and I'll invite you in. That's it. And if all of this is triggering any patterns inside of you, you can always talk to me. And if you find it's unbelievable that I'm using the web class to talk about this, then I apologize for it. Please forgive me. This is something dear to my heart, and I trust it very deeply because it came through applying Renshe, Ling Yuan, and the overall work with Renshe in my life. If in your eyes this is a mistake for me to talk about it, then please just forgive me. Don't throw me out of your life just because I made a mistake. And if you're interested, which is my intention and the reason why I'm talking about it, because I see these big potential for humanity to get out of the financial despair we seem to be in, contact me. So I hope this has answered your question, dear little little one. I wanted to say it's a term of endearment. Dear lovely is what I actually wanted to say. Dear lovely Renshe practitioner from New Zealand. I won't name the name because I haven't asked if that's okay. Now let's go ahead and let's look into the information of self-centeredness, and then we're going to practice Ling Yuan together. So take a few moments to unify. And like I said, if you like, it's a lot of information. If you like to lay down for this part, or if you're already lying, wonderful, stay lying down. Connect with the chi field. Connect with the chi field of Ling Yuan. Unify with the chi field of Ling Yuan. Simply expand and become one. Connect again with the information of when we started to build the chi field today, how you are everybody else and everything else, because you are chi and you are consciousness, and the chi in consciousness has no boundaries nor separations. These distinctions are implemented by our false identifications of what we call the false self in Renshe. Connect with your heart next. Expand your heart to lower dantian. Awareness to lower dantian. Breathe in dantian. Dantian is expanding and contracting, and the universal chi and wisdom is gathering in dantian. Do dantian breathing. Dantian Chi is abundant. Allow it to rise up to the heart. Draw it up to Xinling. In your Xinling, connect with the indescribable vitality and creativity of your desire to change yourself, to overcome self-centeredness once and for all, or in steps. That creativity and indescribable vitality, use it to trust yourself that you can overcome self-centeredness. Good. Feel your heart. Feel the strength in your heart. Your Xinling is now strong. You know you can change. You know information can transform. Now allow your Xinling to expand upwards to connect with Shen Yi. Your heart is the best inquirer. Your Xinling knows what questions to ask and how to formulate them. And your Shen Yi, with its infinite potential and wisdom, will answer. Your Shen Yi is the awareness of oneness. You have access to all the answers, all the information, all the solution and possibilities. If you give up your control and surrender to your Shen Yi, trust your Shen. When you truly trust your Shen, you don't need to control anymore. You don't need to fight anymore. Feel how your Xinling, your heart consciousness, and your Shen Yi, your total reality consciousness, have become unified with all. And the strength you find in that, in being that, you can totally transform the pattern of self-centeredness and any other pattern. There is no need to avoid and hide anymore. And in this state of courage and strength and love and Gongqing and trust, in this open state, receive the information now about self-centeredness and trust that you can use it all to transform your life. The origins and background of self-centeredness. Since we have had some explanation of the origins and background of the first 6 patterns, and covered many of their commonalities. From this pattern forward, we will only look briefly at the origins and background, focusing on those aspects that are specific to the pattern in question. So remember, the origins and background are the educational system, the healthcare system, the social structures, the family environment, and of course, a big degree, the development of human species, the evolution of human species. So the 200,000 years of since Shen, human consciousness is around, and everything we have experienced collectively or personally in the last 200,000 years. Also, the origins and background is the personal factors, what we have experienced in this body, in this life. The formation of the pattern of self-centeredness is a complex process with all the previous mentioned factors involved. However, the most important one is the personal factor. It plays the key determining role in this process. So what Janse is highlighting here is that the personal factor, our personal influence, is the biggest aspect that we need in the understanding around self-centeredness. So we should not ignore the fact that everyone is born with unique fundamental personality traits. These individual personal traits take part in the process of forming this pattern. The identification of self is another important player in this process. The identification of self is established as part of biological and psychological development and manifests as knowing the distinction between oneself and others, and also as knowing the self-evaluation and self-idealization. This is quite significant, so I will repeat that. Yeah? The identification of self is as part of biological and physiological or psychological development and manifests as knowing the distinction between oneself and others, self-evaluation and self-idealization. In adolescence, with the dramatic biological and psychological changes during puberty, the development of self-identity enters a new stage. It can be seen as a mutant due to the overdevelopment of self-identity. From there, a person is likely to fall into the trap of self-centeredness. So basically what Janse is highlighting here is that puberty is a mutant because of when we develop our self-identity, we overdevelop it because it's so radical a change. Furthermore, also pride or self-esteem is a basic need of human nature. If we hold to it too tightly and associate everything with it, it can confine life to a limited space. We end up always trying to construct a perfect image of ourselves. And at the same time, we isolate ourselves more and more. Overly abundant self-regard can also cause one to be reluctant to accept others people's help. Self-righteousness is also closely related to the formation of self-centeredness. Self-righteousness and self-centeredness are like twins. It's sometimes hard to tell them apart, and they always back each other. One thing that is noteworthy is that many unhealthy qualities and patterns can also provide fertile ground for the strengthening of the pattern of self-centeredness. For example, lack of trust, lack of a sense of security, stubbornness, being unloving or unkind, lack of a sense of justice and empathy. Lack of trust, lack of a sense of security, so not feeling safe in the world, materially, so when we don't have enough food or a place to stay, yeah, when we have to live under people who only want to war each other or fight each other, being unloving or unkind, stubbornness, lack of sense of justice and empathy. These all would be involved in increasing self-centeredness. General and specific manifestations. This pattern manifests as a strong focus on fulfilling one's own desires or wishes. A person with this pattern will not only make personal desires his own focus, but also expects other people to do the same. So making one's own wishes their focus. It is a one-way expectation, as he or she does not care for other people's feelings or needs, nor want to make any sacrifice for others. He or she will come across as selfish or self-serving. Sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, she or he may even cause harm to others when taking care of his or her own needs or interests. I think this is really worth to stop and think one more time. Knowingly or unknowingly. This is why it is so important to work with chi, in my understanding, because, and the clear teacher, because we need to be able to observe the laws and we need to train ourselves to see total reality so that we can stop unknowingly harm others. Um, this just brings up information of this Yuan practice that I did, an unfounded suspicion. That was my despair. I didn't know how to not participate in the economy, the way the economy is run. That was part of my despair. I have to be in this cycle of making money somehow. And I am aware that I am harming other people through this attempt to run a business in which I have to make money to sustain myself. For example, I need a device like an iPad or an iPhone, or even both actually, because sometimes I need to record sessions for people. So I need two devices, it seems. And I need to connect. So I have to participate in buying technique, computers, or so on. And I know it is very bad for the planet to produce these things. And for me, also, that was a big part of I have to fly to Jan's seminars because I have to keep learning and I need his support. I need the support of the chi field of a retreat. And the traveling was always a big part. So that is one big reason for being grateful for COVID. We don't need to travel. Nature is happy with that, I'm sure. The world needs to revolve around this person, and everything has to go the way he or she wants. His or her own needs are valued more than the needs of the group or the collective. He expects the group to take care of his or her needs. So he or she expects the group to take care of his or her needs, but is reluctant to respect others in the group or the interests of the group itself. Nor does she or he observe the rules every member of the group is expected to observe. She or he demands other people's respect, but offers little respect in return. He or she is fully taken with him and herself, and is oblivious to other people's existence. His faith can be summed up as everyone exists to serve me, and I exist to serve me too. In reality, every person is somewhat self-serving and selfish. However, when a person sees only himself and not the rest of the world, the self has started to grow too big. This shows in social interactions as only considering one's own needs and interests, being concerned solely about one's own loss and gain, seeing things only from one's own angle, relying exclusively on one's own experience to deal with things and expecting others to agree, and being unduly confident and strongly attached to one's own ideas or opinions. This all stings a bit, doesn't it? When I read this phrase, I always think about, see, you cannot be as forceful in trying to get Renshu out into the world. I'm always worried then if I'm pushing Renshu too hard to the people, into the people, as if I'm pushing people too hard to get into Renshu. I'm working on it. I just want everybody to experience these amazing states of calm and freedom and beauty that we get from transforming pattern by pattern by pattern. Yeah. And here I see, is that self-centered? Good question. Is it self-centeredness? This is a question from me to you. Is it self-centeredness to wanting everybody to do the internal work because I then get to live in a better world? This certainly brings up some more work for me to be doing to accepting the world how it is, the economy how it is, the health system how it is, society how it is. On the other hand, we know that we cannot just sit there and do nothing, no? We can keep changing internally and inspire others to do the same because they would want that freedom that they can observe in ourselves. Okay. Specific manifestations or features include, number one, seldom proactively showing sincere care for others and lack of a real connection or relationship with others. Because one's own interest is always the sole focus, friendliness and enthusiasm are shown only when needing others' help. Otherwise, little interest in other people is shown. Number two, stubbornness and self-righteousness. When in the presence of others, he or she will not hesitate to lead or influence others according to personal ideas or interests. Even when others disagree or offer better options, she will not budge. It is almost impossible for her to change her mind to accommodate others. It is not easy for her to create a deep and meaningful connection or relationship with others. Number three, too much pride over defensiveness or jealousy. One tends to associate everything, small and big, with pride or dignity. there is a strong urge to protect one's pride and defend one's dignity. One displays jealousy when others do better and gloats over people's failure or misfortune. Most of the time, the person is unwilling to provide information that will be helpful for others to succeed. Because she or he relies purely on his or her own preferences and views to make judgments, he is neither objective nor fair. When his soup is warm, other people's soup must be warm as well. So I have never understood that until today, right this moment. What I guess Janse means is when his soup is warm and not hot, because a soup is supposed to be hot, others people's soup must be warm too. So this person doesn't want that the others don't get the hot soup either, just only a warm one. Um, as I'm reading, whenever I read information of the patterns from Janse, so my question to you is now, do you see also the pattern of polarization working underneath? So I'm going through the text and then I see, yeah, this is what I'm doing. No, this is not what I'm doing. And it's so funny because immediately my false self tries to argue with me and, defensively, no, you don't need to worry too much about this pattern. Can you see you're not doing this? Because one of the aspects is so there's two phrases, and with the first phrase, I'm going, oh, yeah, that's me. And with the next phrase, I'm going like, oh no, can't be self-centered because I'm not doing that. It's, do you observe that? How the false self keeps trying to explain to yourself and to defend yourself. If he doesn't like that movie, nobody should like that movie either. If he thinks his friend should leave her husband, she should agree with this is a good idea. So we want others to agree with us all the time, right? Because we think our opinion is the only truthful one. And righteousness is a quite strong pattern, right? So obviously this is going into self-centeredness, the same as victimhood. The sense of justice is so strong that we see ourselves so often as a victim because of the sense of justice. And righteousness is such a strong urge to prove to ourselves that we are right, because otherwise that would mean we must be in the wrong. And so this is why we want everybody to agree with our opinions. He has a free and loose style with regard to himself. He does things the way he wants, and no one can stop him. He has a strong will to follow through until his goal is achieved. When things go wrong, he is forgiving and lenient to himself, but harsh on others. He usually blames others or passes the buck. Um, Shall I read this one more time with she? I read it one more time with she. She has a free and loose style with regard to herself. She does things the way she wants, and no one can stop her. She has a strong will to follow through until her goals are achieved. When things go wrong, she is forgiving and lenient on herself, but harsh on others. She usually blames others or passes the buck. The validity and advantage of this pattern. This pattern has a few advantages as follows. Number one, due to this pattern, a person usually dismisses other people's criticism or comments and hence does not get affected by them too much. You can say he lives in a relatively stable world created by himself. Number two, due to this pattern, a person usually does not suffer from too much guilt or self-blame or issues such as lack of self-confidence. Number three, due to this pattern, a person may have a strong will to follow through with undertakings. She may have an unusually fierce fighting spirit, which can be an advantage in today's society where competition is a major way to survive and thrive. Number four, due to this pattern, a person may be able to focus on himself well and concentrate on what he wants to do. This could give him a better chance to succeed in a worldly sense. So Janse has put the word advantages to this pattern under quotation marks, which you see, I sometimes wonder if this is, it's not sarcasm, those advantages, but so for example, the last part, right, this to be able to focus on yourself and to concentrate on what you yourself want to do could give you a better chance to succeed in a worldly sense, means you could maybe make more money or be better in competition, which of course, when we look at it from the whole human society, is this really a way to do economy the way we do it right now? Is this really a way of, I hope your suspicion pattern is not being activated for me talking about economy, but I think we very honestly need to look at this aspect because we all are participating in this, what we call economy, because we need our material security and our material needs to be met. Our survival instinct is part of this, yes? Sorry. Which brings us to the possible negative effects. We should not lose ourselves. This means we should maintain self-awareness and a connection with ourselves so that we are clear about who we are, enabling us to steer life in the right direction. This is not the case when operating under the pattern of self-centeredness. Because when one's subjective desires or preferences override the objective reality and dictate everything, this pattern causes a person to be unable to hold an objective, fair, and balanced view and engage others in a harmonious and supportive manner. We humans are social beings. Under normal circumstances, everyone needs to maintain healthy relationships with others. An important element for a healthy relationship is helping each other and benefiting from one another. If we wish to receive friendliness and good treatment from others, we need to give that to others too. When only concerned about satisfying one's own needs and desires and constantly defending one's own so-called dignity, conflicts with others inevitably arise. I will read this part again. When only concerned about satisfying one's own needs and desires, and constantly defending one's own so-called dignity, conflicts with others inevitably arise. Eventually, we become shut in our own world and indulge in self-admiration. We miss out on many great opportunities in life, including the opportunities to enjoy good relationships and to learn and grow. The experience of harmony and of creating a healthy, happy, and growing life would be unlikely. This pattern can also lead to problems on other levels of life, such as the psychological, personality, and mental levels. How come this is happening? So I have a good example here, I think. Well, you can judge if it's good or not. There is a documentary about one of the first psychologists who worked with multiple personality disorders, serial killers who have that. And so she started doing this in the 70s. She's an older lady now. What's the documentary called? Crazy but Not Insane. That's the name of the documentary. Crazy but Not Insane. It's very interesting. I can only, recommend it. So she now highly regarded in her field, but 30 years ago she was made into a laughingstock often. To me, this was very touching because this is what happens in my surrounding, often here in rural Austria, about being a Renshui teacher. What do? You teach wisdom and life cultivation. What is that? Um, so anyway, so now she's really well regarded. In the past, not so much. She was ridiculed a lot, even from the media. You know, she was a pioneer. She was actually actively involved in forming this new field in psychology. And what she said is that all the cases that she has been working with, and there were many of them, all those serial killers, every single one of them was there was some mental issue there from the beginning, but it was always coupled with severe abuse. So, as an example for self-centeredness, this severe abuse has triggered their lack of security and their victimhood. And through victimhood, the pattern of resentment and revenge activates itself. And to defend when you have been abused and your dignity has been robbed in the time where you haven't been yet grown up and you're not stable in yourself, there's no confidence, there's no self-esteem, um, then you need to defend your, so to speak, crazy thoughts and the need to harm others, because you can't feel yourself otherwise. So, of course, this is now a mental disorder coupled with severe abuse, which triggers strong victimhood. But I always find that when we tone down and copy paste on ourselves, I can clearly see, when I experienced the abuse that I experienced in my life, which at that time I called it abuse, and I identified with being a victim, with which now doesn't happen, except when the false self wants to catch me back again and tries to test me if I might not identify again with victimhood, which sometimes for a few moments it still achieves. But so self-centeredness, victimhood is very closely connected. I know if you've been part of Yuan Ming web class, we have looked into this a lot of times, but maybe now, as we finally work on the self-centeredness pattern in this big way, you might maybe even see it clearer. The need to defend your dignity when, as a victim, you feel or think that your justice has been denied and your dignity has been taken away from you, something wrong has happened to you, that's when you see yourself as a victim, and that's when you see only your own point. It will become difficult to see the perspective of your so-called abuser, of the perpetrator, and it is easy to forget about love and compassion. And because the victimhood takes over so much, the self-centeredness, the own perspective takes over so much. This brings us to the possible replacement patterns. When you realize you have the tendency or pattern of self-centeredness, what can you do? You could decide whether you want to change. If you do want to change, perhaps you could try different approaches as follows. 1. When you try to work out how to protect your own interests or preferences, perhaps you could try to include other people in your consideration. Replace I with we. Replace me with us. Recognize that society is made up of many individuals and we can all thrive together by supporting and helping one another and working together. So can you see how it makes a lot of sense to talk about economy here, or to at least start thoughts and thought processes, observations about economy? Because self-centeredness or self-interest always is about the survival instinct of how can I survive? How can I buy my food? How can I live in a warm place? But how can I participate in an economy where everybody has the chance to also have that and I can support that and not take away through me needing to be safe? So can I be with less, but therefore re-give into it? This is just one example. Number 2, when you find yourself repeatedly expressing and emphasizing your own feelings, your own viewpoints, your own ideas, your own wishes, your considerations, and your decisions, stop for a few moments and see if perhaps you can give other people the opportunity to express their thoughts and feelings and try to listen to them and understand them. This way, mutual understanding can be developed, which will be beneficial for creating a win-win situation. Three, observe other people's reactions or responses to what you say or do. If they seem unhappy or disgruntled, take a moment and calm yourself. Then ask the person how she feels and what she is not happy with. Try to understand why her mood changed. If it is because of something inappropriate you have said or done, apologize and ask for forgiveness. Practice saying, I am sorry. Apologizing does not harm your dignity. On the contrary, honestly accepting your mistakes and apologizing for them will win others' true respect. This is the real way to preserve one's dignity. Number 4, pay good attention. Listen when other people are expressing their thoughts or feelings. Take listening as a serious matter. When someone is talking, see him or her as the main character and yourself playing a supportive role. Listen attentively with patience and allow the person to express himself fully. When listening, do not respond, make comment, or express your own opinions hastily. I will repeat this because it's important to understand while you are listening. Do not respond, make comment, or express your own opinions hastily. Yeah? Listen. And after listening, that's when you can talk or bring your point of view. So we're not saying here, or Janse is not saying, or me because I'm reading it, and we're not saying that, to not express one's own opinions, but to not do that hastily and not while listening. Try to remember that the purpose of listening is to understand the other person rather than letting the other person understand you. Try to remember that the purpose of listening is to understand the other person rather than letting the other person understand you. So it's about you learning, understanding about how the other person functions and where she comes from, or he. Number 5, when you feel unhappy with something a person has said or done, and you have a strong urge to criticize or complain, first take a few moments to calm down. Instead of saying something, think first. Imagine you were in this position, doing what he had to do. So put yourself into the person's position. Think of why he or she might have done that. Were there any reasons? In his position, what would you have done? Number 6, when you feel jealous of someone, take a few moments to calm yourself down. Think. If you have done something worth appreciating or commending, would you rather people appreciate you or be jealous of you? If you rather that people appreciate you, learn to appreciate other people and be happy for them. Express your appreciation and congratulate them. If you want others to notice and appreciate the good things you have done, you need to pay attention to and discover the positive things about them. And you need to sincerely express to them your heartfelt appreciation. If you wish to receive sincere recognition or approval from others, you need to generously show the same. Recognize that there is plenty of room in this world for everybody to shine. When everybody is lifted to a higher place, everybody can help one another do better. Everybody can thrive when we help each other grow. Beating others through competition is not the only way to win and make oneself visible. Everyone can be a winner in their own way. Number 7, When you feel your dignity is hurt and you have a strong urge to fight back, to defend it with all your might, take a few moments and calm down. Think about what just happened and if it truly has anything to do with your dignity. Is it possible that people are just describing what happened or just wanting to discuss or deal with the issue? Is it necessary to take everything personally or as a personal attack? Is it necessary to associate everything with your own dignity? If you uphold dignity so highly, do you treat others in a way that respects and protects their dignity? Number 8, do you often feel that it is hard to get other people to support or help you, and that the world is not a friendly place? Do you feel frustrated or even lonely because of this? When you feel this way, calm down and take a moment. Ask yourself whether you have recently taken initiative to show your love and care for the people around you and offered them help. Think about how many people in the world are battered by disasters of all kinds and are struggling and suffering, and how fortunate you are. Think about what you can do to make the world a better place. Perhaps you also want to try an extreme measure. Leave yourself out of the picture and only think of the benefit to others. This strong medicine might be overcompensating, but could help reach the ultimate goal of you and the world living in harmony for the benefit of all. I will repeat this one more time. Think about what you can do to make the world a better place. Perhaps you also want to try an extreme measure. Leave yourself out of the picture and only think of the benefit to others. This strong medicine might be overcompensating, but could help reach the ultimate goal of you and the world living in harmony for the benefit of all. 9. Last but not least, to change the pattern of self-centeredness, go back to your heart. Make your heart the foundation for your life and the place from which to reach out to the world. Firstly, find your heart. Build a connection with your heart and develop this connection. Get to know yourself by first getting to know your heart. Restore your heart's ability to feel. Feel yourself, feel other people, feel nature. and feel everything. It takes the heart to melt away the self-centered consciousness. Cultivation of 5 Shin is essential and cannot wait, and all of the 5 qualities should be included. The conclusion to the pattern of self-centeredness is that it can bring all kinds of problems to life. It can cast you on a desert island feeling isolated and lonely. Overprotecting your dignity turns your heart into a fragile glass that can be broken easily. Furthermore, your heart will not be able to feel and connect in a real way, and you will miss out on the opportunity to experience all the positive feelings a human heart can enjoy. The mindset that other people cannot and should not do better than you, and also your jealousy, will always put your heart on a grill, receiving incessant scorching and burning. How can life be truly enjoyable this way? It can all be changed, but only you can do it. Feel the replacement information and all the information. It has gone into your heart and your Shen Yi. Your Shen Yi has now access to the universe. Go ahead and please sit up, getting ready for the Ling Yuan practice if you have laid down. Draw your vision back. If you've opened your eyes, relax and make sure you have your Huiyin lifted. Now, just like that, unify with the chi field we have built since 2 hours. Become one. No walls, no separation, no skin, no distinctions between you and all, between you or the chi field. Shen Ling and Shen Yi are unified and are openly communicating. Allow yourself to sink totally freely into the unification and into your trust to find manifestations of this pattern in your life so you can recognize them. you will see the process of development and the causes for the formation of this pattern. You have seen that maybe all while we were going through the information. Maybe some old memory came up, or something you were able to observe while we were reading. Some manifestation, something that you do or not do. Now is the time to work with it. You have been shown, and now you can do it. The facing. You can also look into what would be the reason for you to hold on, so your validity. And also allow yourself some compassion and some advantage that might be part of it. But look into it as why you would still be using this as an explanation, this advantage for why you would still be holding on to this pattern. The self-centeredness, the righteousness, the victimhood, whatever aspect it is. To allow your Shen Yi and Shen Ling to go everywhere freely, and then ask yourself when you are ready what you want to do in regard of with that pattern. Maybe also look at the possible negative effects. And then maybe ask yourself again what to do in regard with this pattern. And then allow freely to let the universe and the love of the universe supply you with replacement information. What you can think, feel, and do instead. And once you have been doing that, and you feel that this is where your Xinling and your Shani are bringing you, then go ahead and affirm and accept every single of these aspects through Wu Xin, one by one. Can you trust the replacement information and your decision to change? Can you be open to that? Can you love it? Can you love the changes? Can you confirm and affirm with love the new information, the new pattern? Can you be grateful for the universe to show you and for the new information? And can you invite with respect and Gongqing, with humility and awe, invite yourself to live and think the new pattern from now on? Allow yourself to flow through this process freely. We will be silent together now while you are full of courage, facing all these things and flowing freely through the questions. You can go forth and back. Observe yourself. And when you have accepted and got affirmed and confirmed the new information and patterns, go ahead and finish your practice silently. I will just finish the recording. at some point, silently as well, you are free now to go deeper and deeper into unification and trust. Trust your Shen. When you trust your true self, you don't need to control anymore. You can be free. And so can everybody else with you together be free.